recording. And we are live. Welcome back to the RINO podcast. Last episode before vacation. Where will you be going, Caitlin? To the south of France?
The South France, yes. I'm going to. I'm flying into Rome. We're going up to Cinque Terre for a few days, and then we're going up to Menton, and then Monaco, and then Nice.
Ooh la la.
I'm super excited.
That sounds awesome. I'm a little bit jealous. I mean, I plan to do, that vacation one point in the future, but definitely a little bit jealous right now. That's awesome. I hesitate to say there's no air conditioning in that region of the world, so stay hydrated. I'd like to go over there in like late winter, early spring, just because, you get to wear that fashion that you're so fond of, like, right? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be around, like, I'm not saying this will happen, but I could imagine a bunch of sweaty American tourists in like cargo shorts and New Balance walking around the streets of Italy. Would I be wrong in that?
Have you? Yeah, no. And then I feel like Italians dress so well too. Like
They do.
it's very cultural over there. Like you can tell who is the tourist and who's not. And so like I'm kind of choosing my outfits based on it's going to be hot, and then what looks good and what is like culturally, I guess, acceptable. Cause like over there, women shouldn't be wearing like short shorts and short skirts, and they're a little bit more modest.
Are they?
So yeah, like we're going to the
Vatican.
Yeah, so like we're going to the Vatican the first day when we get there. We're going immediately to the Colosseum, and then to do a tour there. And then we're going to the Vatican. And when you're at the Vatican, women have to have their upper arms covered and their chest covered. So I got this really cute Reformation dress. And then I have to get a shawl to cover myself up when I'm in there. And Mr. Caitlin has to we have to find him linen pants because it's going to be really hot in a linen shirt.
Banana Republic. Okay. So now you're talking to a linen pants expert right now. Like I live for my linen pants in the summertime. White linen pants are available at Banana Republic. They make a quality pair. And they're they're more expensive than normal men's pants, but they're absolutely worth it. There's some nicer pairs that like Perry Ellis, Kenneth Cole make, but if you want more casual, you can get both casual and dressy from Banana Republic.
Look at you. You got your DeSantis.
I got swag. My RD24 hat and my Ron DeSantis mug. The coffee just tastes a little bit better. So, well, good. Enjoy your trip. Travel safe. Watch out for the pickpockets.
I'm very good at I'm very good at evading them. When I vacation anywhere, really, like I ensure that I'm always like aware of where I'm at.
Yeah.
The last time I was in Europe was before COVID, and it was funny. I was in Paris, and Paris is great. Like when people shit on Paris, I'm like, I don't
Who
understand.
shits on Paris?
Some people. Like it's not a lot of people, but people.
Paris is amazing. I can't wait to go.
Yeah, Paris is great. Like if you want to go and like go to the museums are just amazing. When I went to the Eiffel Tower, though, the Eiffel Tower has a ton of pickpockets around the bottom of it. And what they do is they'll set out like a blanket full of trinkets and have somebody right there. So like you come up to the trinkets and look at them, and then someone will pickpocket you around that.
Yeah.
No, this guy straight up, I was carrying a designer purse and straight up tried to take my designer purse. And I looked at him and I was like, come at me. Like I literally was just like, come at me, bitch.
Yeah. No, and I saw it by the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, you're definitely like, I'm like, my radar was going off. I mean, look, I grew up outside, around here in Massachusetts, going into Boston, and then, middle school, high school, going into New York City. So it's like you develop that head on a swivel Shady people are shady people, whether they're in New York or they're in Paris or London. You got to watch out. But yeah, smart move. But today we are going to talk about the blockbuster movies this summer that I didn't see. I'll just say it right now. I haven't seen them. They came out this weekend, but you have seen both
I've seen both.
Barbie
Barbie
and
and Oppenheimer.
now I'll hold my fire on Barbie because I've heard some things. We're going to get into this in a second. Oppenheimer, I know very well. I saw when I was a kid. Fat Man and Little Boy was the original. I think Paul Newman was in it. And was the original atom bomb creation movie. But I know a lot about the history of Oppenheimer and what he went through after the fact. But also, I saw the trailer for Napoleon, which comes out Thanksgiving.
I'm so excited for that too, by Ridley Scott.
I am so excited for this movie. I was so excited. Here's how deep I went to it. I saw that trailer. I immediately Napoleon documentary. And
there's a few good podcasts out about Napoleon.
Okay,
so the dictators. Okay, so I do want to put this out. So I do the same thing, Jeff. When you see something kind of historically relevant to something in culture that's coming out, you want to just deep dive into it.
Yeah.
There is a really good podcast by Noisier called Dictators, and they do several dictators in history, and one of them is Napoleon. And I always see there's always this funny historical question on whether Napoleon was a dictator or not. And
yes, I'll get into that in a second. Go ahead.
Okay. But it's a really good podcast on Napoleon. And you should, and their segment on Napoleon is really good. You all should listen.
Yeah, I posted this on my Twitter, so go to my page and scroll down, and there's a 4-part documentary narrated by David McCullough on Napoleon.
Ooh.
And it goes through his life. Yeah, so it's all YouTube links. So it's on YouTube. You can watch it, and I got into it this week, and it was fantastic because it just breaks down the timeline in his life. So it's not going to detract from me seeing Napoleon in, I know how the story ends. So it's you're not spoiling anything. But there were some nuances that I didn't know. And one of the things, with Napoleon, okay, quick. After Napoleon gets exiled to St. Helena and he's kind of done, that sets the stage for what, weirdly, fast forward a little bit, but in between, the Second Reich, right? The German Empire. Okay, it sets the stage for the German Empire, the Second Reich. Well, what was the First Reich? It was the Roman Empire, and Hitler's Third Reich. So all of this sort of leads into it. And Napoleon was a dictator. He did a lot of good things. But one thing they say in the documentary that he realizes coming out of the French Revolution, they're liberté, égalité, fraternité, right? So it's liberty, equality, and brotherhood. But Napoleon is very clear. He was not big on the liberty part.
Well,
he was big on the equality part. He liked breaking down the old regime, but he was no, the masses cannot be allowed to govern or anything like that.
So there's a really good book that has a good section on the UK and France at the time of it has a portion of the book that is about England and France at the time of the revolution. It's called Bittersweet, Enemies or something. And the historians that wrote it are a married couple. One is British and one is French. And it kind of looks through the lens of the French Revolution through the eyes of pretty much everyone at the time, people who are French on the ground, Mary Wollstonecraft went over to France and then saw the horrifying nature of the French Revolution because it was very bloody.
Oh, yeah.
And she kind of turned away from that. And then it kind of looks through the comparison also with the French Revolution on the American Revolution. And Edmund Burke wrote extensively on the French Revolution, why the French Revolution, and then eventually failed into what Napoleon grew out of. which is where he took control, and it didn't create like a real democracy, and he became an emperor of France.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for this movie, because if you ever really listen to any podcast on Napoleon, the Revolutions podcast, has a really good portion at the end of the French Revolution, because the French Revolution really goes into the rise of Napoleon at the end, because you see the monarchy really brought back through him, but it's not a hierarchical monarchy in the sense of like in England, in Spain, the people who become the monarch are born into this role. It's really a divine concept. Napoleon grew up in Corsica, and he really actually comes from a portion of those people that are really kind of Italian French. They're not they're not really French. So like my mom's side of the family is really French. And so you see him come from, he's not really the lowest of the low. Like his family was
they were not wealthy. They're really Corsican aristocrats without that much money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like they had power there, and then he rises to the ranks and he gets the appointment, and he starts winning battles. And you really see again kind of what you said, with like the rise of the reunification
Second
afterwards.
Reich. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you see Napoleon be that first really conqueror of Europe after maybe even Charlemagne. And so like true conqueror, and you see really Europe consolidate in order to defeat him. And I think that if Napoleon wasn't so egotistical, he probably could have been that like almost, it's funny how people like describe it like the EU, where it's like a federal project and uniter of Europe in itself. I think that Napoleon could have been that if he hadn't been so egotistical. I do think that the British would have tried to come on the continent, because the British are very, very, very different from mainland continental Europeans. And so they like things the way they like it. And they kind of like maybe the grandfathers of neoliberalism and trade, and the French have a very different approach to the economy. So it would have been, it's a very big what if question in history, but I think Napoleon is an interesting character. I'm very excited for this movie. I think Joaquin Phoenix looks fantastic as Napoleon from Taylor. And then it's Vanessa Kirby plays Josephine. I'm very excited.
Yeah. No, this is, and not to, their relationship directly impacted the way Napoleon behaved and impacted the world, right? So it's not just the love affair that took place while he was trying to conquer Europe. It had a direct impact on the way he did things.
Well, it was interesting, right? Because like he's so in love with Josephine, but after a time, she like ends up really hating him, and their relationship is so love-hate. And you start seeing that in the trailer, and again, I could not wait for this movie. It's going to be so good.
No, that's gonna be Thanksgiving's gonna be cool. I'm definitely seeing it early in the weekend, and I'm gonna see. So, like we said, we're going on vacation. We'll go on a little hiatus. We'll be back probably for the Republican presidential debates coming up in August. And I'm gonna see Oppenheimer, and I'm gonna see Barbie. I want to talk about. Let's go over Barbie first. Now, again, I didn't see these movies, but I'd like to see Barbie, because when I go to see movies, or I talk to my wife about going to see a movie, I'm like, let's go see this movie. She's like, I don't want to see it. I don't know. I'm like, look, these are top-notch actors, A-list actors. In general, they don't pick pieces of shit to star in, right? Margot Robbie has her choice of any script out there. Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, Clooney, DiCaprio. They have their choice. They get to pick and choose all the movies they want to do. So all they're going for is probably either like really fun, great stuff, comedies like maybe like Barbie, or like they're going for the award. They're going for the Academy Award. Like, so it's going to be a good flick. Barbie, what I saw after it, and I'll talk about the reaction online. Ben Shapiro being being Ben Shapiro and not cool. Very smart guy, but not cool. I don't like. I guess the word patriarchy was mentioned a few times in it, and suddenly it's like they're jamming the patriarchy down the thing. Like, I want to be like, are you sure? Did the joke go over your head? Are they really pushing this, or are they acknowledging that it's silly and stupid? Now, maybe it's one or the other. I don't know, but I tend to think there's probably enough self-awareness now where it's part of the joke, and they're not pushing like woke bullshit. But Caitlin, you saw it. What
Okay.
happened?
So I saw Barbie after Oppenheimer yesterday, because Oppenheimer is a really heavy movie. We'll get into that in a second. I thought it was hilarious. And I
Great.
thought that it was, I mean, Mr. Caitlin and I just laughed the entire time because it is a meta movie. Okay.
Okay.
So like when you start off, you go into quote unquote Barbie land. And I don't want to give away the entire plot of it because I think that you should go see it. Barbie land is a place where feminism is the cemented social system, and the women Barbies in Barbie land are doctors, presidents, judges on the Supreme Court,
Okay. So
all that other stuff. So they have the power over the men in Barbie
so
land,
all
and
right there. That's
and
part of the joke. That's part of the joke. And you
it
said you
is
laughed,
clearly
which is what I was. It's a
and
comedy.
it's clearly a joke.
Yeah.
Like it's very clearly a joke because it's, first of all, they're placing, like, first of all, they're dolls. Okay, so like they're plastic dolls, and there's this concept of like perfection within these women in the beginning when we're talking about the feminist Barbie land, that where the social structure is put in, where like everyone's put up on a pedestal, everyone has to look pretty up, everyone has to look perfect, nothing is complicated, everything is very easy. And then you start getting into the problems of it. I don't want to give away the entire plot because I think that you should go see it, but you see that dynamic come in complete conflict when they go into the real world and everything is very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ken goes into a library and reads about the patriarchy and comes back into Barbie land and tries to apply the patriarchy in
That's
Barbie
great.
land.
That's hilarious.
I mean, the stereotypes of what the patriarchy is, Jeff, is like I mean, it really is funny. Like they're obsessed with like trucks and beer and like Ken is like really focused on the fact that men ride horses like cowboys, and like it's funny. And so like
Yeah.
it's
So that's good. So I would. All right. Do we
they
go?
make it really does like I don't really like Kate McKinnon as like a comedian. She really was funny in this movie.
She's a
Like
very funny comedic actress when she's given her lines to perform. When
I
she
think
when
that
she goes off on her own, she's terrible. But yeah, okay.
she like, yeah, no, like she's very funny in this movie. Margot Robbie is even funny in this movie. Like it, Ryan Gosling was hilarious. Oh my god! Like, but the thing is, and what I got from the movie is that the world is complicated. Barbie is there as a toy that girls grow up with, where they can achieve a realistic dream in being a doctor and being like a lawyer, whatever. But it's okay to be ordinary, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to even be, you know, not the perfect person, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to do this and that. The point of it is that it's okay to be just you. And so like the entire movie makes fun of these two political and cultural systems and matriarchy and patriarchy. I mean, like
But
I
that's good. Then they hit the mark. Like I said, so but the A-list talent gravitates towards the good writing that is talking about that gets the joke, because good comedy.
I didn't
There,
find it to be preachy. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
really
that's the
hate
thing.
preachy
And guys,
movies.
like,
Like
this is what.
I really didn't find it to be preachy. Like I hate preachy movies. I hate when the left is super preachy.
I mean,
Like I hate watching award shows where they get up there and
yeah,
they go off and like
everybody
all this.
does.
The
Everybody does.
movie really just focused on it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to grow up. It's okay to be ordinary. It's okay to achieve your dreams. And they do that through the lens of like how people grow from, I guess, girls grow from having, playing with Barbies into whatever they're going to be in
Okay.
real life.
I,
Like,
I
it's okay to not put women on pedestals. It's okay for women to make mistakes. That's what I got from it. Like, I never, like, the woke thing in it, like, I guess there's a trans actor that's in it. They don't mention the fact that this person is trans at all. Like, it is like
well,
like very
usually
much
like
there are
I
two
know.
genders. Like, this
Yeah.
movie is very much men versus female, and then they have a reconciliation at the end. Like, we don't get into like any of that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it really is a like a meta conversation on
Yeah.
life as it is right now, and kind of the genders going at each other rather than maybe working together to make the world not as complicated. Like, I just didn't get like the heavy wokeness that other guys got from it. Maybe the fact that they
No,
were stereotyped by
no,
Ken. Like,
look, the Daily Wire crew and that, like, they have to be, if it just mentions it, like, they don't look for the nuance or the deeper level. They go, oh, they said patriarchy in it. Patriarchy was mentioned 5 times. It's just like, oh, Jesus Christ. It's like, do you get the joke or you don't get the joke? And some people, and I would imagine a fair amount of people there got it, but like the dorks didn't, because sometimes the dorks just take things at face value.
Well, it's not even face value. They get money based on like their reactions to
Right.
this. They get
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there's a perverse
so,
disincentive, but
and my big thing is like, I want the right to start engaging in culture, because we're not going to win the culture war by isolating ourselves and not engaging in it and trying to create our own culture that is separate. Like, we're not going to win like
no.
that. So we have to engage, and we have to, like, it's okay to like things like this. Like, it's
Yes.
okay. Like, and when I see like
Yes.
online reactions like this, it's like Jack Proso, and then like, like you
Yeah,
see Ben Shapiro.
yeah.
It's like you dweebs. Like, it's okay to like these
I
things.
know. It is okay to like things from mainstream culture. The stuff that doesn't work automatically doesn't work, and it fails financially. It fails popularly. It will. But the stuff that's good can be good, and you can like the things that do come out. That's why that's why there's a major resurgence of stand-up comedy. There's it just
Well, it's
people get it.
pervasive, right? Like, persuasive. Like, the thing is like, everyone in their head, when we're going through these, like, a lot of like trans issues, are thinking in their head, they're like, yeah, I don't think it's right that a 6'3" man or transgender woman should be able to go into a 500 freestyle and compete against biological women.
You had it right. You had it right the first time.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Like, like, that's not right. And the thing is like, is it okay for them to say that? A lot of times, no. And that should be okay for them to say that, because we need to come together as a society where we're allowed to agree to disagree in better ways. Like, I think on the right now, and this is what I wish would come out of it. And I mean, like, as long as Donald Trump is on the political horizon, it's not. I want them to be normal, because normalcy is winning. Like, right now, the left, yeah, sure. Like, a lot of hardcore lefties are going after Jason Aldean right now over a country music song, but they look like idiots. So why are we trying to go after Barbie? Like, it doesn't make
well,
sense to me.
And the thing is, it's not honest. It's not truthful when they do it, because they pretend. This is the left does this a lot, but also, I mean, you're getting gleans of it on the right too, but not nearly in the degree or breadth of it. But the Jason Aldean thing, it's like, watch the video, listen to the lyrics, very clearly talking about like Antifa rioters. And then, just the left will intentionally misinterpret it and go, it's racist. It's this like you have no other cards to play. They don't have any concept of what it is to be normal, because they're so polluted with their thinking. All right. So should we do what?
Do we want to go
star rating or old Siskel and Ebert? Are you old enough to remember Siskel and Ebert? Thumbs up or thumbs down to see Barbie? What do you think? What's the Caitlin scale we want to go with?
I would say at least just see it. Like, I don't like giving
up.
Star movies. It is really good. I give it a thumbs up. Uh,
thumbs up from Caitlin.
Mr. Keelan and I laughed the entire time. It was very hilarious. It felt like an old Community episode where you had to like really catch on to the jokes and the meta humor that
Okay.
was within it. Margot Robbie did a really good job in this comedic role. Like you don't really see her being pushed into that
Yeah,
very
but she
often.
Caitlin, she's a mid.
Um, they make a joke about that. I'm not kidding. Like so there's a narrator in the movie
Oh,
and
okay.
they talk about like there's just something that said that like but when she's in the real world that she's ugly and or a joke that says that like she's ugly and like the narrator comes on as like FYI if we really wanted Barbie to be ugly we would not have hired Margot Robbie to play her. Like it was like really funny.
But
And
whoever said that, and kudos to them for the ultimate troll because I can't. They're not serious, but they got people talking seriously. Margot Robbie is as close to a 10 in Hollywood as you're gonna. You know what I mean? Like
I've also heard that she's really nice, like as a person.
she seems. She doesn't
Yeah,
seem like in the interviews. I mean,
like
whatever
a
you can
drama.
tell, but you're a good actor. You can hide that stuff.
Yeah, like
But
she
anyway,
seems
she's
like
yeah.
she
Like
seems like yeah.
the only person who thinks people that are gay men, might think she's a mid. That's it, because they're
No,
just being
I've
catty.
even seen gay men being like she, like I even think she's hot. Like they'll say that.
Stunning.
Um,
Okay.
so like I give it a thumbs up.
All right. Oppenheimer.
Good movie.
Okay. Now.
So okay. So let me preface this by saying I liked Christopher Nolan's Batman series.
Mhm.
Um, I liked um I liked Dunkirk a lot. I love historical movies, by the way. I love historical movies. And so I was really excited to see this one because I've listened and read some interviews with Christopher Nolan. He's talked about his political beliefs and all the other stuff. He is technically, I think, left wing. He's very critical of capitalism, which is funny as a director because,
Jesus.
but
All right. Clueless, but okay. Sure. Yeah.
yeah, so like I really, really loved Dunkirk. And so because I think that Dunkirk is a very important story and it would be very difficult to get it, how can I say this? It would be very easy to get it wrong. What he did with Dunkirk is we sliced it into like several different parts. So there's
It
definitely
took me
four.
three watches to get that. Do you know,
Oh,
like
okay.
I just didn't. I was like, ugh, I didn't wasn't like paying. I was half like just watching it and absorbing it. I was like, oh, timeline's 1 week. Oh, timeline's 1 day. Oh, timeline's 1 hour, something like that. I had to watch it a couple times, and I was like, oh, I get it. I didn't like. I had
Yeah.
with a Christopher Nolan movie. Sorry, you have to. I'm gonna guess you have to do this with Oppenheimer, but I don't know. I have to tell myself, oh, really pay attention to the first 20 minutes because like he sets up a lot of how he makes the movie with that. And I've enjoyed
Yeah.
Inception, and he made Inception, right? And the movie with
Interstellar.
Interstellar. But what did he do with Denzel Washington's son? The one with he travels back in time, sort of time.
Is Tenet?
Tenet. I like Tenet a lot too.
Um,
Okay, sorry. Back to Oppenheimer.
I actually haven't seen Tenet yet. Again, I really, really love historical movies. Like I will watch them on like loops if I am at home and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
dicking around and I don't have a show to watch. Um, and Dunkirk is one of those movies that I can watch on a loop. So it was 1917, and then
Mm.
a few other ones. But anyway, okay, so Oppenheimer kind of opens up with him maybe accepting this role in this government kind of agency of scientists where they can just like research. And this is post-war. And then it kind of goes through his background all the way up to really World War II, and then what the government comes to him and wants to do essentially with the research that he's doing. He works in theoretical physics, and if people don't really know what that kind of means, is that he doesn't do he works in theory. Okay, so like that is not really something that you can always put into real life. And so like really their challenge is to take they need to be able to make a bomb, and that they deal with the ethical questions of this science going into making a bomb. Take the theory of that and put it into practice by building one. And then you see the creation of Los Alamos. They do hit on his left-wing views and the people around him. He was very like pro-unionization. He kind of was sympathetic to communism. I mean, I don't want to say kind of, he was.
Well, there were a lot of, there was a lot of that at the time. The scientists that escaped from Germany, were they weren't about traditional liberal democracy. Again,
a lot of scientists in general are left-leaning people. They gravitate, and especially at that time when communism was so pervasive, they gravitated towards that economic theory because they saw out of the Great Depression, the Soviet Union climb out of it, not really get affected by it, and their GDP went up, and they thought it in the beginning as a success. And then you kind of see that Stalin was starving the Ukraine in order to force that GDP up. But at the same time, there's no discussion in that movie. That's really what was like, but that was what's happening in the background. A lot of people, when they see movies like this, they don't understand maybe the timeline of the course of events and the totality of all events happening at once.
Well, that kind of back to what we said at the beginning, after Napoleon and the Second Reich, the German Empire that rose throughout, a lot of that thinking, Marx, and a lot of those schools of thought came up and influenced directly the political movements of the early 20th century in the 19-teens and 1920s, et cetera.
Well, I mean, when you look at the French Revolution, Marx wrote in like the mid 1800s. The first socialists came out of the French Revolution. They were like anarcho socialists, and Marx was really influenced by them. They would not have agreed with what Marx was writing because Marx was kind of an anarcho socialist in the beginning, and then he turned into this very much revolution pushing, dictatorship supporting Marxists who needed that strongman in order to bring around that change that he wanted through Marxist revolution. So anyway, Oppenheimer at that time, so like there were a lot of like communists within the academia at the time because they thought that social and political structure was just and ethical. And that's not a good thing because then we came out of that and,
right into we the Cold War. Yeah.
We see that. So within Oppenheimer, again, back to the actual point, we see them at Los Alamos creating this bomb, and you see a lot of scientists around it. Josh Hartnett plays a prominent scientist, and I was glad to see him in the movie. And
he hasn't been anywhere
he looked
forever.
Great.
He hasn't been.
He did so good in this movie. I was really impressed. I'm hoping that he gets roles out of this one. But anyway, you see them do that. And it gets to the point where they're talking about a lot of ethical questions with this and testing the bomb and all of this. And they finally test the bomb and they see the destructive power of the bomb. It's the minor bomb that they did in New Mexico, because not a lot of people know that the first atom bomb test that ever happened actually happened on U.S. soil in New Mexico.
That's correct. Yes. Yep.
And so they do that test, and then you kind of see the U.S. government come in and take all of their work.
Oh, yeah.
They came in and took all their work, and then they're talking about kind of Germany surrendering and all this other stuff. And the original concept was that we were going to use this atom bomb on Germany because they wanted to defeat Nazism. And then Truman uses it in Japan, and you see Oppenheimer. And then the most sickening part of this, other people have other reactions to what is going on in this movie. They thought the sickening part was actually a scene after this. The most sickening part for me was when Oppenheimer is in the room with generals, Secretary of War, and all these other high-ranking officials. He's in there with Groves, and they're talking about using this bomb in Japan. because at that point, a lot of people, again, because history is never really taught well, the Empire of Japan had what they considered an honor code that they were never going to surrender to
Fight to the
a
last man.
outside force, unless it was a total defeat. Okay, total defeat means that their country is ravaged, like fight to the death until the last point. And this is a part of Japanese culture. It has been for a long time. So, and the Americans knew this. They knew that the Japanese would not surrender. So they are going through a risk assessment. And again, I was feeling kind of nauseous when they were doing this. A risk assessment of a land invasion of Japan and the horrific nature of that land invasion versus utilizing the atomic bomb on smaller cities in order to force the Japanese into surrender. That to me was the big scene. And Oppenheimer is trying to push that these atom bombs are devastating. And you just see kind of a flippant comment that the president doesn't want to put Kyoto on the list to bomb because he did his honeymoon there. And you see Oppenheimer's face like, this is what we're talking about. Like, so
was that
again,
historic?
like,
I'd be curious if that was historically accurate.
Yeah, I think Truman honeymoon in Kyoto.
Okay.
And so you see Oppenheimer kind of weigh the gravity of what he thought up and what he came up with what was created and how it was used. And you kind of see him really want, after that point, after the war, high regulation of these weapons, because in that moment when these atom bombs were used, the world changed completely. Our structure of hegemonic dominance changed completely. World politics changed in that moment completely. And so it is a very important time period. They get into how Oppenheimer loses his security clearance. There was a spy at Los Alamos that did actually happen.
Yeah.
And he vouched for this guy, and the guy ended up being a spy.
Yeah.
And so, and you also see kind of the person who revoked the security clearance. He actually lost a Senate confirmation to be the Secretary of Commerce under, it's his name, Strauss, under Eisenhower, and how that all came down because Oppenheimer, within a lot of scientists within, and not just him, within their brilliance, are very egotistical about their brilliance. And so you see him on one occasion really put down Strauss, and Strauss being vindictive over that. And that's kind of how it came around in the case. Oppenheimer eventually, after that happened, where he got his security clearance revoked, LBJ gave him an award before he died. And so he got his prominence a little bit back, but he never had the political power that he had during the 1950s, when everyone was really anti-communist and the Cold War was kind of starting. I really enjoyed the movie. It is a long movie. So if you're going to go, make sure that you have time periods where you want to go to the bathroom. I had to go twice. There's one scene where he is in Los Alamos, and after they use the atom bomb on Japan, he goes in front of an entire crowd that is really flag waving at the time, and you see the gravity of what his words are. We utilize this bomb on people in order to force a surrender, and you see a lot of people cheering, but then you see a lot of people crying, and you see some scenes of like him like kind of seeing people's like the reaction to the atom bomb. So like when the atom bomb goes off, a lot of things happen to people. Like it's so strong that it'll like take your skin off, and you see that in one person. He steps on like a dead body, and then in the back when he leaves, he sees people like crying, and then one person's outside throwing up, because like you really feel the gravity of what they created and how that impacts human civilization as a whole.
Right. Didn't see online too much of a reaction to, you knew this was coming, that like, oh, the U.S. shouldn't have used the typical America hating people, remove the context of that. Yeah, we were at war and Japan was bad and we needed to beat Japan, right? Coming out of people who are criticizing U.S. use of nuclear weapons. Pretty minor. I think everybody pretty much gets it. That debate is settled. Even you tweeted about it this week with Obama on the Apologia tour. Like,
I remember
it didn't
that.
happen. It didn't happen exactly, but like we all know, it's like, no, Japan was terrible, and they needed to lose.
So like there's a huge concern. Okay, so like, guys, I want to make it very clear that I think that Japan right now is a really good ally to the United States, right? We need to support them, especially with China's aggression. They've been a very good ally to the United States. They have completely changed from World War II and Western surrender. They, again, good ally. I really do like Japan and world affairs. But Japan also at that time had a very hardcore culture of honor and culture of surrounding defeat and surrounding, I guess, Western influence. China did too.
Yeah.
And so the risk again, the scene with the risk assessment on like whether or not they're going to drop the bomb, that was the most poignant scene for me. The other poignant scene is like, I guess, the patriotism versus the ethical usage of the atom bomb scene. That one didn't really get me that hard. The filleting skin part like didn't come off as smooth as I thought it would. I do have to say that as a criticism of the film. Christopher Nolan didn't want to use CGI in this movie, so like he or as much as possible, I think I read that somewhere. So like it was done by makeup and it didn't come off as great to me. But like, again, like I enjoy historical movies. Yeah. And so that's the reason why the meeting scene.
All right. Before moving on to the next topic, I mean, obviously I think you give it a thumbs up because it was a very good movie is what you're saying. But would you think
a lot of Oscar nominations are coming out of this movie?
Yeah. I think that's an obvious one. That was probably Nolan doesn't do crap. But does Nolan hit you over the head with a political viewpoint in this movie? And I'll watch this. I'll see this soon, and I'll chime in at some point.
I think yes and no. Yes, in the fact that you kind of see Oppenheimer get taken out because of his political views. Okay. And no, because those political views throughout the movie are very obviously bad and unethical. Do you see what I'm saying there? So like,
right. Yeah, he's sympathetic to communism. Communism is bad. Therefore, yeah.
But should he have been, so like, there is like an actual nuanced argument. Should he have gotten his security clearance revoked at Los Alamos? He did bring in a scientist, ended up spying for the Soviet Union. That is true. That is a very historical fact.
Coming out of World War II, there's so this is an interesting to lead us to where we are today, right? George Soros has this idea of the open society, okay? And William F. Buckley back in the 50s and 60s argued successfully, in my opinion, that no, we have a closed society, and meaning, and that those two concepts, meaning, are all possible options to how to govern ourselves on the table. And it's like, well, if you agree, yes, communism is a very good and legitimate way to govern ourselves. That's open. Anything can happen, any form of government, or closed. No, basically we're down to liberal democracy in, maybe UK, US, and other Western countries form. So the way the United States and our Constitution is, communism does not work with it. You can't make you know what I mean? If you voted in the Communist Party would shred the Constitution. They would say, no, it's done. It's over with. We voted in and we're taking over. So that meaning a closed society, we're not allowing that. We're not allowing people who think that communism is a viable form of government into the government. It cannot be allowed. And you're like, well, what about just an opinion and free speech? It's like, well, no, you can think, say what you want, but you're not allowed to be in it. Like communism is antithetical to the United States Constitution. Therefore, anybody who believes in it shouldn't be allowed to function within that. Period. Full stop.
right. So like we went through a period of that. I think that when you walk a weird line when you don't allow how can I say this? In the United States, we do have like a libertarian view on that point, right? Like, so like it's not. I don't
Communism is very
want people.
specific.
Right. Like we wouldn't allow a Nazi to be in government like that
Yeah,
or fascist, like an
yeah.
open fascist. But these people would lose elections. Like that's my big thing. Like so like if they're hired in as these people, that's a different question than them being elected. Like a communist would not be elected into the United States government today. Oppenheimer clearly was sympathetic to communism before the war. I think that he changed his point of view afterward. Um, but he was still sympathetic to highly progressive ideology that is not cohesive with what the United States post-war consensus was going to have to be in order to restructure Europe, restructure Japan, and go forward with the liberal order. That is the ultimate problem. Like he makes a comment in the movies. Sorry, I didn't even make this. He makes this comment about like atomic weapons and nuclear weapons, and like the UN, and it's like, dude, the UN is never going to have the power to control like this arms race. Like he kind of like idealizes what Roosevelt was talking about with the UN and the United Nations, and you just see Truman be like, "Shut the fuck up, crybaby." Like there's like a scene where like he's sitting in the Oval Office talking to Truman, and he says to Truman that he has like blood on his hands, and like Truman like gets him out of the room, and you hear him as he's leaving, "Get that crybaby. I never want to see that crybaby again."
Yeah.
And it's like, Truman, he did have to make that choice, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Oppenheimer didn't make that choice.
Yeah.
He didn't make the choice to drop the bomb on the Japan. He gave his opinion as an expert, obviously the highest expert in the land. He led the project that created the bomb, but Truman ended up having to make that choice as the U.S. president in order to do that and to stop the war.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that's a thing that Truman regrets, because again, war is expensive and we needed to end it. But you see Oppenheimer go through this like kind of thought cycle where it's like, they're not listening to me, and it's like, yeah, but you're not thinking about the entire problem.
The entirety of the problem. Yeah.
So there is thoroughness to Oppenheimer's thought process and a lot of these decision making based on ideology itself.
All right, I had one more thought on it, but I'll pass. We're going pretty long on this. We'll wrap up.
I know we are,
but it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm going to see both movies. Both are probably very good, and we'll clearly thumbs up on both. Came out this week that Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has an enemies list. I don't think we're on it. I kind of
thank God. I feel like that would
I kind of want to be on it, though. I mean, like, what are we doing if we're not on the mayor's enemy list, But no, this came out like there's a bunch of people harassing her, and we've been on record that it's useless to protest her house and harass her. Like, it's stupid. It doesn't accomplish anything. You're pretty much foolish. You're a bit nutty. And we've dealt with these people before. It's just like you're not going to get where you want. So she created a list of people that are known by police. One of them actually got involved with a shooting in the North End over restaurants. I didn't know if you knew that. But it's generally, look, if you're a government official, it's generally not the best idea to create a list of people who you have enemies, who've made enemies of you, just because of the very nature of the look, and you're going to target them. But she is Mayor Wu is an authoritarian with progressive sympathies that, government supremacy. So I'm not surprised by it. Anyway, she's taken a lot of dings on her administration. It's not going well. I won't say I'm fearful for the city and its future, but she doesn't know what she's doing. And, I don't know. Maybe this will be our a short segment. You have any thoughts on
I
the
know.
Mayor Wu?
I think Mayor Wu having an enemies list is really kind of crazy and
Yeah.
not normal and not cohesive to good governance in the city of Boston. Um, um, I don't live in the city of Boston, so a lot of what she does only affects me in that if she does like a big ordinance, sometimes the smaller towns around it try to match what Boston's doing, which is kind of dumb. But I don't know. Like I just don't think that she really. I mean,
She
it's
doesn't
just
get normal politics. She's
yeah, she
so
doesn't.
dedicated. It's just equity, justice. What are the other words? Equity, justice, diversity. Equality. Like just a word salad of nonsense policies that don't make sense. The business community hates her. Real estate development hates her because she's like 20% of all new housing has to be for income restricted. It's just like where are you getting these numbers? Two, that's not viable. People need to actually make a profit when they're developing this stuff. It's just top down authoritarian, busybody bureaucrat central planning at the city level, and it never works. And people like now it's like big tax break for office buildings, office space that's converted into housing. Okay, but we're also going to keep the regulation that says you can't put gas stoves in there. It's like, okay, well then they're not going to do it. They're not going to put apartments in there. She doesn't get how the real world works. It's so dedicated to the progressive and call it neo-communist ideology of central planning that it's just not going to be successful. You're not going to be
I just don't
successful.
understand why she can't like focus on things that are actually like doable and like workable for
It's
like just good governance overall. Like it just focus on roads, bridges, and
yeah.
making people happy. Like that's all you have to do as mayor. Like I don't know why you focus on the dumbass shit that like no one really wants to pay attention to that will like swing you into reelection really fast. You focus on the dumb programs that always, and having enemy lists that just like make you controversial and
I,
make you seem like you're a dunce. Like you guys
ideologically
are,
driven. Ideologically
yeah,
driven. There's just
like
no.
girl, like, you need to figure out like being normal will get you to reelection in this time period and stop with the nonsense. Like it's really as simple as that. And like I say that I want to say this to every single like politician out there, like just be normal. Like that's all I want.
It's it's so depressing that we have elected such weird, abnormal, just crazy thinkers to elected office, especially here in Massachusetts. Like you go down the list, and the most normal person. Do you know who the most normal person in Massachusetts politics is?
Who?
At an official level, Maura Healey. Maura Healey is like the closest. She gets it. Like she sort of like has her foot in like the normal camp. Ayanna Pressley, lunatic.
She's taking from Baker. She's just like try not to be
Yeah,
controversial, show up, smile, do things that are again like are not gonna
yeah.
make waves. She's kind of figured that out. We thought that she was going to come in and be super progressive. She has not been. She's not been trying to make waves. She probably wants that reelection. And good for Maura Healey. I mean, like the worst thing that came out about her was that she was dating her girlfriend, who was her subordinate for a long time, and they framed it as love is love,
Yeah.
and that's normal. And it's like it's not normal. It actually
No,
is
there was
corruption. But
a
at the
few a
same
few
time,
relationships we've heard of, but anyway.
yeah, she's been able to not be controversial. Other than that,
It's just don't do stupid progressive things, and you'll be fine. And just so many Markey, Warren, Presley, Wu, all of they're in la la land, bonkers. Okay, we've gone long, but it's a good episode. We learned a lot. Go see Barbie. Go see
go see Barbie.
Oppenheimer. Go see
Go see
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, and then
We're looking forward
make
to
sure you go see
Thanksgiving.
Napoleon.
Go see Napoleon and Thanksgiving. Enjoy your summer. Wear sunscreen.
Wear sunscreen.
Avoid bee stings.
Yeah,
Right.
tasty.
I got me and Dave Portnoy, bee sting survivor, 2-time bee sting survivor right here. So anyway, look, everybody, we're gonna take a hiatus. We'll catch you in a few weeks. We'll see when the presidential GOP debates are, and we'll get back to you with that, a full recap or prelim or whatever we want to talk. And enjoy your summer. Stay hydrated. Relax.
Yep.
It's all gonna be good. Everything's
Yep.
gonna be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. That's why I keep telling people. It's like,
It's all
you'll
gonna
be
be
okay.
okay. We'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
All right. Until next time. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.